So you found the skeleton. How would you calculate that? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Cambrian Bunny Awards. Yes, I know it's 2022, but these awards are for things that happened last year. That's why we're having them at the beginning of this year. Want to just get that quick little thing out of the way. This is the nomination for the Cambrian Bunny Awards. And real quick, we have a $5 super chat from Carrie Bronson who says, "The void is quite sparkly today." Yes, you should all be wearing tuxedos or evening gowns. That's the dress. I'm wearing a top hat and a monocle, so other people are wearing hoodies and t-shirts, so whatever. Look, there are no rules, and nothing about this matters. So I want to introduce, we've got Dr. Dan, whom you all know of, I'm sure, and we've also got Jordan from Reason to Doubt, whom you should all know if you don't. And we are going to be, I'm the MC tonight, and we're going to be going through some categories and hearing our panel selections for worst argument, or creationist with the worst argument, worst behaved creationist, and best overall creationist. Originally, there was going to be a funniest creationist category, but literally no one submitted any names for that category. So, no one wins that category. There are no funny creationists.
Wait, Dapper, isn't there a worst use of the English language category?
Oh, there is a worst use of the English language. That's true. I'm sorry. I missed that.
I mean, I'm sure we could come up with some funny.
Yeah, but I'm not going to add extra videos. Because the way this is going to work is after we get a argument for who's going to be the nominee and why you should vote for this person, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding to this description a link to an unlisted video on my YouTube channel. It's just going to be 10 seconds of silence and a black screen, so, the void is there for you. But if you hit like, that will be a vote. And you are encouraged to do whatever you want. You can go set up like 18,000 different accounts and have them all go like one video if you really want to. I don't care. There are no rules. So do whatever you want. So we are actually going to start off with, Dr. Dan gave me two nominations for each category. So we're going to start with Dan, Jordan, back to Dan. So Dan, why don't you give us your first pick for creationist with the worst argument, while I grab the link to that video.
Yeah, so let me just say for everybody, what I did with my nominations is I had a professional class and an amateur class for each category. So I split them out like that. So I'll start with the professionals, and then we'll go to the amateurs. So my professional class nominee, and I use the term, loosely, approximately, whatever. My professional class nominee for worst creationist argument goes to David McQueen for the blobs in the mantle absorbed the heat during the flood. I nominate this argument because it requires, let's say, some creative thermodynamics. In order for the heat to flow from the crust to the mantle would have to be cooler than the crust. Now, we know from lots of lines of evidence that the mantle is not, and has not at any point, been cooler than the crust, right? So
it would be hard to even imagine how that could happen.
It would be challenging to imagine how that could happen. So this solution for the heat problem does, in theory, work to reduce the temperature at the surface of the Earth, merely if we assume everything works perfectly and as smooth as it could work, as long as thermodynamics continue to operate as they ought to, we are reducing the temperature at the surface of the Earth to the temperature of the mantle, and that's the supposed solution for the heat problem.
To be fair, that is a whole lot cooler than the heat problem automatically has it at.
That is a whole lot. I mean, we're making, in order to achieve that, we're making a lot of assumptions, like completely 100% efficient heat flow and complete 100% equilibrium between the crust and the mantle, right? We're making a lot of assumptions. Mm-hmm. But if you grant every beneficial assumption to this argument possible in order to solve the heat problem, you arrive at a surface of the Earth that is comparable in temperature to the inside of like a volcano, right? That's the survivable temperature that we're at.
Yeah, which
That's
is
why-
still
that's my
boiling all the
nomination.
oceans off. So I don't know what good a boat is
going
going to do.
boil, right? It's going to boil
Yeah.
the entire surface of the planet, right? So that's why that is my
I do
my
love flood-
nomination for best art.
I do love flood arguments is to leave us with, okay, but you're trying to protect a boat. You know the boats can't survive boiling oceans, right?
Yeah,
Like-
can't survive. Yeah,
Everyone on the
There you
ark
go.
at best is now steamed. You get a nice little soup going there, I guess. So all right, that is David McQueen. Now I have added the David McQueen link. So if you want to vote for David McQueen for worst argument, that's in there. We have a couple super chats to go through. First, Vandalion 1998 for $2 says, "I think creationist coffee would be the funniest." I do like that one. If you guys haven't seen, I have a video called "Humans Aren't Mammals" that is a parody of the "Humans Aren't Apes" arguments that we get, in which basically creationists just point out things that, while true, don't make humans not apes. Like, humans have less fur. It's like, yes,
Okay.
they do. And so it just goes through a whole list of things that are reasons that humans aren't mammals. And it's hosted by a fictional creationist named Creationist Coffee and voiced by a friend of mine who goes by Duke Ellington online. So, for 20 secs, thank you very much for all the secs. From Command Cyborg, the void smiles at you or something. Hard to tell. Yeah, it is really hard to tell whether or not the void is smiling.
Touchstone voice. So
Yeah. All right, so Jordan, who is your pick for worst creation or creations with the worst argument?
Well, it's kind of funny because my pick was George Bond for the same argument. Because while McQueen does jump on the Blob bandwagon, most notably with his exceptional prop being the margarita glass, if the surface of the Earth worked like a margarita glass, then the blobs would work. It's unclear exactly what role the margarita glass plays in the model. But it's
Are you saying we
Bond-
don't have a real subterranean gigantic margarita glass inside the Earth?
I mean,
That
maybe
you know
I
of?
don't- not that I'm aware of, but I'm not a geologist, so I actually have McQueen's textbook right over there. So maybe I should probably read that. Maybe the margarita glass is in there. But no. So Bond is the one who makes that argument, but tries to couple it with math. Which, to be fair, even though this is a terrible argument, I did before and I will now give Bond props for attempting to support his argument with math. The math is terrible. It's very wrong, and it showcases a just breathtaking ignorance of thermodynamics. But because there's math, we can actually dig into it and see what the problems are, and boy, are there many. I'm not going to go through them all because they're basically what Dr. Dan just said. Though I will say that even if you have a perfect heat transfer with no loss of entropy, it's still not going to be a matter where you have like 100% heat transfer. There's always, even a perfect hypothetical like Carnot engine kind of hypothetical engine, you never like it's not going to be 100%, and it would take a very long time to get a thermal equilibrium. But it wouldn't matter because like if the crust was in fact in thermal equilibrium with the mantle, it would leave a lot of signs that happened. But yeah, I would credit this argument, the blob argument, to George Bond with the supporting role of McQueen.
Okay. So if you think
that's fair. Yeah.
So the link for George Bond is in the description. So that they both get worst argument for the same argument. And we're going to go back to Dan for his sort of amateur tier pick for creationists with the worst argument.
Yeah, and this one is, it's funny because so far all my worst arguments are like physics and geology related. They're not bio or genetics or anything, which is weird for me. But this one comes to us from a video that I watched with our friend Maddie at Science Side Up with Guts at Gibbon. Three of us watched this video and went through it together.
My condolences.
This one broke my brain. It's from Rawnet, and it was an argument about radiometric dating and the age of the Earth, and it's kind of a two-parter. So in this argument, he talked about uranium and how you can specifically find old uranium atoms versus younger uranium atoms.
As if you could figure out how old an
Like
atom
the
is.
individual atom is
Yes.
what you're dating. Like, oh, that uranium is old, but this
Right.
uranium is younger, right? That was part of
You
it.
have to
Go ahead, but-
you have to turn the atom over and look for the best buy date on the back. That's what,
Yeah, you see what the made on date was for the atom.
Wasn't Ramet
But-
also the guy who thought that after 2 half-lives your entire sample would be gone because first one half,
yes.
then the other half?
And that's
Right.
yes, that's also what
half
he did.
life.
It's half.
What
Come
else
on,
would it mean?
it's
Come
gone
on.
out. So but in that same video, he made an argument about why the distribution of isotopes is what it is. And no, it's not about. You may think it's due to radioactive decay is why we find lighter isotopes, right, in certain places, right? No. You are wrong. Raw Matt assures you that it is because heavier isotopes sink so the bottom, and the lighter isotopes stay on top. So when we survey minerals and see what isotopes they contain, we, mere mortals on the surface of the Earth, are only going to find the lighter isotopes because they stay on top and all the heavier isotopes sink downwards where we do not have access to them. And that grants the appearance of an old age for the Earth. And I put these two arguments together because they were put together in a single video that I reviewed with our two friends that I mentioned.
Frankly amazing.
And that is my amateur class nominee for worst argument. Old uranium atoms and the heavier isotopes sink.
That's an actual literal flat Earth argument, you know. It's heavy, so it sinks. Because it's more dense.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
Whew.
Right.
I mean, there is some truth to the idea that, like, at a very, very coarse approximation, there's kind of a density gradient with iron, then silicon magmas, and then, you know, light silicon crust and whatnot. But, like, it does not go down to that level of, like, where the uranium goes. Like...
I mean, all else being equal, the heaviest, densest stuff is going to be at the bottom. However, not all else. All else is definitely not equal.
Right.
Like this.
There
Also,
are other
we're
factors
talking
besides
about
gravity.
We're talking about crystal matrices. We're not talking about a homogeneous liquid. Like,
Also,
Yeah, it's-
Guptu3 says the uranium atoms have copyright dates in Roman numerals if you look at the end credits. Oh, man.
Yeah, the sinking thing actually plays into the blobs too, because one thing that Bond tries to say is that so they try to put the uranium down in the mantle, and so like the mantle would act as like almost a blanket insulating the surface of the Earth, right? But then they also, another argument they make separately is that the surface of the Earth is super enriched in uranium, and that because of the whole sinking thing shows that it's young. So they have to somehow selectively get
those
their
are not the same thing.
you have to get their uranium from the under the blanket rapidly to
It
the
needs
top.
to come up very fast, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Oh, man.
Well, that makes perfect sense. As you move the uranium, none of the heat transfers with it. Because
No.
at that point, it's old uranium. It's used up. It's done.
Yeah, it can't
That's
move
what
very
depleted
fast.
uranium. That's what depleted uranium means. It's all done. It's done. It's done.
It's very
Well,
cold.
It's old uranium.
If the nuclear decay was accelerated while it was under the mantle, I actually did the math. If it were accelerated only while it was under the
course you
mantle,
did.
the mantle
Only.
has there's enough mass there that it could absorb that much heat and not appreciably affect, because just the mantle's so big. If it was like all the way down to the bottom and then it like magically teleported to the surface but stopped its accelerated decay, then maybe it'll work. Like I probably.
So if we have multiple miracles, the
Yeah.
occurrence of which would contradict what we actually see in the physical Earth, then it could work, is what you're saying.
Sure, I mean,
that's why
see
you
this-
see in a nutshell.
sprinkle a bit of magic on it and you're done. Yeah.
$5.
So there's a chance.
You're telling me there's a chance. For $5, Gargamel Gold says, "So upset I missed the beginning of your stream. Is this like the classic Golden Crocoduck Awards?" So yeah, I want to address that. The Golden Crocoduck Awards has been kind of defunct for a while, and I felt like that was unfortunate. And so while this is not associated in any official way with the Golden Crocoducks, it is in a similar spirit. So Yeah, basically there hasn't been just a fun kind of parody award show involving creationism in a while. And Doggy, you gotta make sure that everyone can see the doggy for just a little bit at least. There, she,
He
there he
Bean.
is. Hey, Bean.
He's a good boy.
Aw, what a cutie.
Good boy.
All right, so right now, as it stands, all 3 links are in, so you can vote for David McQueen, George Bond, or Raw Matt for Worst Argument 2021. Again, the way you vote, just click on the link. It'll bring you to an unlisted blank video. I promise there's nothing in there. The more I say it, the more people are going to expect Easter eggs in there. You know that, right? Anyway, just hit like, and that's a vote. And like I said, you can like as many times as you have accounts. If you want to set up a bot that does nothing but create randomly generated email accounts, use them to make YouTube accounts, and then use those to hit like on the videos you like. I don't care. These are meaningless. So, but voting does end in about a month. So I think it's like gonna be the 3rd Saturday in February. We're gonna have the award show. We're gonna see who got what award, who the runners-up are, and stuff like that. So, let's take a look now at worst use of the English language. So, Dan, who was your first nominee for worst use of the English language?
So, my nominee, my professional class nominee for worst use of the English language goes collectively to CMI. That's Creation Ministries International, because one of the big things they've been pushing, in particular last few months, I don't know, I've just been noticing it a lot lately. Multiple different instances of it, of a documented instance of evolution happening, and the CMI response being, that's not evolution, that's just definition of evolution, right? So they'll be like, is the coronavirus evolving? No, it's just mutating and its allele frequencies are changing. It's like, well, pardon me, but I'm pretty sure the word for that, sir, is evolution.
Yes.
Recently there was another one where there was some, I forget what paper it was some species of something, and they were like, are lizards blah 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 evolving? No, they're just changing their genes and blah 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 blah. It's like, well, that's evolution, guys. That's evolution.
Right.
That's what that is. You can't just point to every time someone publishes a paper of like, look at this trait increasing in frequency in a population due to this selective pressure and this novel mutation, and be like, that's not evolution. That's just mutation and selection, changing allele frequencies. It's literally the definition of evolution, guy. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I would expect that Creation Ministries International, an organization that employs a number of actual qualified scientists on their staff, I would think at some point somebody read a book or heard a lecture or something where somebody defined evolution for them. So this is my nominee for worst use of the English language. I do have an honorable mention for this that I'm not nominating, but I just want to throw out there because it's vintage, but it's an ongoing thing of the butchering of the term Darwinism. You see this a lot from Discovery Institute, where like Stephen Meyer will get up there and be like, Darwinists, and be like, sir, it is not the 1860s.
You know what that reminds me of?
I like to argue against Darwinists, but that's not my nominee. My nominee is CMI for evolution.
I saw Dan Biddle present in a talk of his an article that he said was from the journal Evolution. It was from Evolution News, which is, the Discovery Institute's anti-evolution blog.
That's a blog.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, so is biocomplexity. That's also a blog. They call it a journal, but it's a blog with editors. But it's a blog.
Yeah,
it's not a journal.
Guys, the fact that you curate your blog doesn't make it not a blog.
Yeah, that's a blog.
Now, Jordan, I don't think you had a pick for this one, did you?
No, I probably should have, but I didn't. I failed on that one.
Now, the instructions did contain the phrase, remember these rules are made up, and neither they nor the awards matter, so, do whatever.
True.
So, don't feel too bad, because literally none of this matters.
I probably, you know what? This won't count because you won't have a video for them. But this is, I suddenly realize who I should have nominated. And it should have been collectively Team SFT for their use of the term. What's the term when it?
Is it paleo expert?
No. It's a it's a mechanical engineering term. Come back to me. While he's doing a second one, I'm gonna.
All right. Well,
Okay.
figure it out.
Dan, why don't you give us your second pick, which I believe might have something to do with Jordan's pick.
It's related. It's related because my second pick, and I tried really hard. So you're going to see a theme with my amateur class picks here. I tried really hard to come up with something else for this pick. I went to like the creation subreddit and the debate evolution subreddit and a few other places looking for crimes against the English language. But when you think about the phrase crimes against the English language, there is really, if you're familiar with the YouTube creation sphere, there is one name that should come to mind. And I try as I might, I could not find someone that exceeds this person's what's the word I'm looking for? Accomplishments, their gravitas in this field. And that person is, of course, Raw Matthew, Undercooked Matthew. Because I have a couple of we'll call them books right there. There they are. I have a couple of books.
These bound printed collection of letters.
They're papers, they're screeds, but they are bound between covers, so we can call them books. And I will say that crimes against the English language have been committed.
My goodness.
A number of crimes.
It's amazing. There are sentences in there. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There are sentences that are not.
There are phrases that start with a capital letter and end with a punctuation mark, and they are not sentences.
They are not sentences. They are not sentences.
There are in a print book, there are truncated hyperlinks used as sources, and other sources that are just listed as source underlined with blue letters. It's a book.
Source.
You can't click on.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I am 100% serious.
This is not a PDF. This is a print book.
It's a physical book that has hyper. I'm just gonna like flip through.
Show it for the camera,
right here.
man.
See this right there? That is
between individuals. If you get the color edition, it's blue.
Oh, Dapper, I found the exact thing you just said. Look, right there.
Yeah,
that is a
source.
Hyperlink. That is a hyperlink. Right there, it says study. It's a hyperlink. It's a printed book.
My source is the study. You know the one, the study.
I underlined the word. Come on, guys.
Okay.
Oh
there are other ones. Look, that's also right there. That's also a hyperlink right there. Like, this book is full of hyperlinks. Some of them are like text, and some of them are, as Dapper says, they're actually like
a URL.
Like a URL, a truncated URL.
But it's truncated, so you still can't use it because it ends with 3 periods.
Also, can I just show everybody this?
Oh
this
my
book
goodness!
Also has this amazing. Just if you haven't seen this before and you're watching, just screenshot that and look at it later.
It's
horrible.
It gets worse the longer you look at it.
The longer you look at it, the worse it is. So that's why my amateur class nominee for this category is Raw Matt, and nobody else comes close.
So I have a very close friend who's a business consultant, and she does absolutely nothing with like biology or pseudoscience debunk stuff. And sometimes I use her as like my proxy for like person who isn't dumb but also isn't into any of this stuff. And so I showed her that, and she was like, "Oh, I remember these from high school." I'm like, "Yeah, take a look at it though." And like she's just like, "Wait, what's happening? This is all terrible." I'm like, "Yes, thank you. I'm glad to know that even people who don't care about this stuff look at Raw Matt and they're like, what is wrong with this man? How?" So yeah, I do think that Raw Matt is an excellent choice for murdering the English language. Yeah, he does it in his blog posts too. My favorite thing about my favorite Raw Matt blog post was about Probate Ignathus, and this is a little off topic, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
That's fine. There's no
where
rules.
he said, yeah,
no rules, yeah.
Where he said Probate Ignathus doesn't even have molars. While on the blog, he had a close-up of the molars of Probate Ignathus displayed prominently. And I'm just like, but they're right. You showed them. I know they don't look like your molars there, Matt, but like, that's what those are. I'm sorry that this animal ate insects and so it has weird shaped molars compared to you, but yeah. Yeah, Raw Matt is a very special individual. I'll say that. He's very, very special.
Indeed. Unique.
All right.
So my honorable mention that I didn't recall until just right now. It's a pet peeve of mine. It's a very wonky thing but I'm a mechanical engineer and it bothers the ever-living hell out of me. It's their Team SFT, Raw Matt in particular, but all of Team SFT's usage of the word adiabatic. So adiabatic means, if something is adiabatic, it means no heat was transferred across the boundary between the system and its environments. Okay? That's what an adiabatic process is. And usually that would mean like there's no heat isn't being generated, because usually that it's like there's no heat transfer, right? That's what it usually means. Well, they use it all the time when they're talking about proof that this fusion worked and like it was basically wouldn't have generated heat because the process was adiabatic. The process was adiabatic, and what they mean is that no heat came in from the outside. But this is a radioactive system, so heat can be generated inside of a system. It can still be adiabatic because there's no heat transfer across the boundaries. Right. And they just completely ignore that, which is a tiny thing. I know it doesn't matter to anyone but me, but man, it pisses me off every single time they do it.
It matters to the argument because can't talk. They're using an argument that basically says, this works if I misdefine the terms. Right. And it's like, well, look, okay, that's great, but no one's going to do that for you. No one's going to be like, let's just pretend that words mean other things in science because it helps you. It's sort of like my point about Sal's fitness argument. It's like, well, I'm glad that according to your contrived and very subjective definition that fitness always declines in populations, the rest of the world is going to continue on using the real definition of fitness that matters in science. And in that case, this argument doesn't work at all.
They'll say like, look, there was no heat generated in it. It's adiabatic. There's no heat generated. It's adiabatic. Like, that's not what adiabatic means. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go and see what we have next. So that was worst use of the English language. Now we come to the ever-coveted worst behaved creationist. Now, I'm going to go to Dan because he's got two. So we're basically going Dan, Jordan, Dan for these. Because I don't know, that's what I want to do. It's my show.
Okay. So worst behaved. Now I wanna preface this by saying that not my nominee in either class, professional or amateur. I don't know if this will be Jordan's nominee. The obvious winner here in worst behaved is going to be Kent. Like, it's clearly the obvious winner, right? Because this is a man who was recently. Jordan, I don't know if that's your nominee, Jordan. I hope he is. Yeah. Okay. So I'll let you go through. Okay. So like, I'm gonna say I'm making nominations here. Kent should win this, hands down. It's not even close. But aside from Kent, my professional, because I'm limiting the behavior here into the kind of the creationist sphere argument universe. My professional class nominee for worst behaved goes to Dr. Rob Carter of CMI for his barely hinged screed against Erica, me, and for some
and the
reason,
wrong Dapper Dino.
He tried to dox Dapper Dino and doxed the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
He brought Dr. Joshua Swamidas into it for like 3 paragraphs for no reason at all.
Just out of the blue.
Just out of the blue, just got mad at Dr. Josh for no reason. Like, so
he just loaded the shotgun of vitriol and blasted and saw who got hit.
And just went. And whoever got hit. And this was because of a show that I did with Dapper Dino and Kutsa Gibbon on something that he had written or video of his or something, and he took that personally.
Was it about genetic entropy and it was nonsensical?
It was like a 10-minute video where he made like 12 wrong arguments.
Oh, it was the waiting time.
It was like genetic entropy. Well, that was a separate thing, and he tagged on to the bottom of this post a response to the thing that me and you and I think David Neff was there when we talked about the waiting time problem, and so he tagged that onto the bottom as like an addendum. Like, he was just mad. and it was
And the internet needs to know, damn it.
Having his therapy session, shaking his fist at clouds. You know?
yeah, shaking his fist at
Goodness.
and this is where I do want to say that one of the things that I really appreciate from this blog post from Dr. Rob Carter and CMI was that he in talking about me, he then switched real fast to talking about Dr. Swamidass, and he called him, quote, another troubler of the creation world, which implies that I am a troubler of the creation world, and I
Congratulations.
really appreciate that. I really appreciate that coming from one of the CMI,
Yeah,
scientists.
that's pretty nice.
So for his just barely hinged blog post screed, my nominee in this class, in the professional class for this award, is Dr. Rob Carter of CMI.
Nice. All right, so the link for Dr. Rob Carter is in the video description. Now, again, this video description is the only place you're going to find these links. These aren't listed on my YouTube channel. You can't just search for them. So you have to actually do the effort of moving your mouse down and hitting the more button to expand down the list. I know this is asking a lot because this is the internet and everyone is lazy, but that's just how you have to do it, guys. So let's see. That was Rob Carter and okay, Jordan. You have, who do you have? I'm not gonna.
I have Kent Hovind.
Okay.
I thought long and hard about this, and there was I limited myself to a single nomination because I didn't really internalize how little the rules mattered. But I was also trying to like restrictions spark creativity,
Mhm.
And so there are a lot of names that came to mind. Nephilim Free for just his annoying baby voice and rage quitting every debate he's ever in when it's exposed that he's an idiot. And that's not something I say lightly.
No, he's an intentional idiot. He could be smarter.
Right, but he chooses not to be. Matt Slick was another one I thought of for his anti-vax craziness, which is literally killing people. But go ahead.
Real quick, I almost missed it. We got a $2 super chat from Carrie Bronson who said that video implied the mantle is liquid U238, talking about the raw mat video. That I just love it. It just gets crazier the longer you think about it.
Yeah. Raw Matt's videos are something else. And just pro tip, if you want to piss off Raw Matt, just mention bananas. Just the idea of bananas. That'll just make his head explode. I don't know why.
Even though he's a monofruitarian, apparently.
Yeah, he doesn't like bananas, though. I tell you what.
That's the fruit that it's forbidden.
Right, the forbidden fruit. Okay. But anyway, my nomination for worst behaved is Kent Hovind, and not for his behavior in debates. I've debated him, and it was actually a pleasant experience for me, but purely because he is now convicted of domestic abuse. And I don't want to bring down the mood too much about going into why that's bad. I think everyone can understand why that's bad. But
if you want more, check out my interview with Cindy Lincoln, the abuse victim.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. And so I as much as it would be more fun to do someone else, I feel like if I'm taking the award seriously, I have to go with Ken.
Okay. And we have a membership chat from Ann Gladstone, who's been a member for 4 months at the Amnio level. Thank you very much, Ann. Dapper Dinosaur, AIG, and their big bag of geese sticks should get an honorable mention for bad behavior in copyright claims. So I agree. And if we were doing drinking rules, that would be an excellent drink trigger. Because as you all know, on my Tuesday streams, we do a drinking game. And one of the rules is that when we get super chats and the like that imply that AIG are a bunch of dicks, because they like to copyright claim things like crazy, we take a drink for that. So very much appreciate it. And yeah, I'll say honorable mention for AIG for just copyright claiming all sorts of crap. And also actually for Matt Powell for trying to use background music to make it so that anyone who uploads his videos as in a response gets their videos automatically copyright claimed by the copyright holder of that music. Joke's on him though, because I can remove music. It's not that hard.
So I have
an AI music remover.
Wouldn't his original video also get copyright?
He gets money from direct donations though. People tithe to Matt Powell.
Yeah, he's not monetized.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want me to make money from him, but he's failing at that, so I don't really care. because like AI music erasing, it's a thing. My copy of the freeware open source audio editing program Audacity has that as an option. I can remove vocals or music.
You go.
Yep. So nice try, Raw Matt. Or not Matt Powell. Also, have you ever seen his tags on his YouTube videos? He tags hundreds of things just because they're trending tags and they have nothing to do with it. Like you'll go to a video about like human evolution and it'll have tags like whatever song is popular, or like My Little Pony will be in there, and it's just random crap that just happens to be trending. So that hopefully someone will discover his video while looking for something entirely different. Which, by the way, that's a violation of the terms of service. You can report videos for that. Misleading tags. So if you ever want to have a fun day, or maybe not a fun day, but a day where you're getting to, basically you're causing your own schadenfreude. If you ever want to have that kind of day, you can just go and flag a whole bunch of Matt Powell videos that have inaccurate tags. So yeah, there's another honorable mention for shitty behavior. Oh, I'm sorry, worst behaved. We're going to keep this. Yeah, Dan, you're also muted. Oh, okay. So we have another from Dan, I believe. So you also have.
Yes.
Yep. Here we go.
So I also have my amateur class nominee for worst behaved, and for this one, I'm loath to give this person attention, but I'm going to do it anyway because we're here having fun. My nominee for amateur class worst behaved is for our friend Standing for Truth, because I think this group in particular, and some of our friends in the YouTube, that follow the YouTube creation sphere, kind of know how this game goes. Of start off friendly, hear a couple times on the channel, have some emails, but then at some point you say something wrong and you offend Mr. Truth, and what will follow is a series of insults and insinuations,
threats occasionally,
threats of physical violence, insinuations that you, just to pull a recent example, lack testosterone. That was a recent one directed at one of our friends.
I want to know how little testosterone I have to have before I start being wrong about my arguments. Because I feel like it's a great question. Like there's no actual answer to that question that involves numbers.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but this is kind of typical behavior, and we've seen this trajectory played out a number of times. My favorite aspect to this is the occasional late night like comment chains, or sometimes if you're really lucky, you get an email that is just so far out of left field.
It's crazy drunken rant.
It just I didn't want to say it. I'm not gonna make any assumptions about the state of mind of the person making the comments or sending the emails, but you can see the comments in some places and you can draw your own conclusions. And it really is funny because the mask slips and we get to hear what he actually thinks about people. And the other side of this that's great. I mean, for example, I was told in some email thread at some point that I was, a degenerate, and of course I'm never going to associate with you again because you're a degenerate. Whatever. It's like, okay, thanks.
Usually what that means is he suspects that you're not straight.
Oh, is that what that means?
That's what that means.
So it was in response to an email message, something about like sex not being binary, and then we're off to the races.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah. And so the point for this nomination is not the behavior itself, it's the two-faced aspect to it of like, I'm friendly and just hosting a community, and then but you cross that line, and that where that line is not clear, but it seems to be somewhere along the lines of you're wrong and here's why.
My favorite thing though,
over the line, you'll go on the poop list, and then you'll get some fun messages from time to time.
My favorite thing about that situation is the degree to which it's now falling into infighting, as increasingly more people who are pro science are just like, no, we're just not going to deal with you at all. So now there's not as many people to argue with. So instead, like, there's like doxing being thrown around, and
So I have to say, I've been on the SFT channel several times, and SFT has never been anything but chill and completely cool with me ever. Even when I told him, hey, I'm no longer going to participate with your channel because you're associating and promoting a domestic abuser. And as a child of abuse, I don't think that's cool, and I'm not going to do it. And his response was, well, I understand your opinion. I respect your right to have it. And, I hope we can work together in the future. It's super polite.
No,
I
that's
know
nice.
I know that all this has happened because I've seen emails. I don't know what it is about me that I've got this weird SFT shield around me. I don't know. I've seen enough evidence that I am convinced it happens.
I've seen him do it to Sal Cordova.
He did it to Sal. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually kind of relevant to the other side of this, because it's not just, as you were saying, about the evolutionists. It's now there's poo flinging theologically, right? And that's gotten uglier because, like you said, that's involved doxing and everything. That's gotten real ugly.
When it came out that Praise I Am That I Am isn't a Trinitarian, it was a whole thing for months.
Man. Yeah, and now this once saved always saved stuff going on. It's just popcorn.gif.
Seriously.
Now, the other thing I do want to mention here, in case anyone doesn't know it, it's public information at this point, so it's fine. Because unlike some people, I'm not going to dox people, but this is public at this point. But if this aspect to this whole story was if this was like a TV show and someone in the writer's room came up with this, they would be like, no, that's too on point. Are you stupid? You can't put that in there. That's ridiculous. But it is SFT in his prior incarnation was a literal used car salesman, which is the greatest aspect of all of this, because it is just
the thing is
so on the nose.
People were calling him a slimy used car salesman for a year before this actually came out.
Before it came out that he actually was a literal used car sale, which is perfect and way too on the nose. But this is reality, so
hey, sometimes reality actually is stranger than fiction, and things that you're like, no, that's way too beyond the pale. That no one would believe that. No, it's just real life.
I think
it's just real.
Reality has made a concerted effort in the last several years to exterminate satire, just hunt it from existence.
Right. All right, so let me check my. Okay, so now we have Rob Carter, Kent Tobin, and SFT are all linked in the description. So if you want to vote for any of them, again, you just go to the description, click the video, hit like, and when basically the day before we actually have the award show, I'm going to tally up all the votes, put them in a list, and then we can announce the winners or the losers. Because the thing is, for most of these, if you win, you actually lose. So, let's see, where are we? So we just did Worst Behaved. No one gets Funniest Creationist because no one submitted any nominations. Creationists, get better material. That's all I can say, really. So we are now on to Best Overall Creationist. So this is the one where actually I'm kind of bringing it away from terrible arguments, bad language, bad behavior, and we're saying, hey, there's some people who are, well, I don't agree with them, and I think many of their arguments are horrible. They're at least good people overall, for the most part. Nobody's perfect, but these are the people who I think we can all say, yeah, not a bad guy. So, Dan, who is your first pick for Best Overall Creationist?
My professional class nominee for this one is, there's a lot of creationist organizations out there, right? It's AIG, CMI, Discovery Institute, yada yada yada. One group that doesn't get a lot of attention, I think, because it's much more loosely affiliated, but in general, as far as from what I've seen, the Is Genesis History crew has been a lot less bomb throwy than all the rest of the groups. Their arguments are not good, when it comes to the geology of the Grand Canyon, but their conduct is I think better as far as I've seen. And in particular, I want to my nominee for this is Todd Wood, because he did a series of videos. Just in general, Todd Wood just doesn't kind of get into the muck that some of the other ones do. He's not going to write that Rob Carter kind of blog post.
No.
And but he did a series of videos a while back, just over the last few months, basically looking at are there problems with evolution? Are there things that evolution doesn't explain well? And I do not agree with the content of the videos, but they were measured, and he was at least trying to make an attempt to convey information in a reasonably accurate way, I think. And it was definitely most of the time with creationist arguments to be like, more proof that creationism is true, right? It's like that. But Todd Wood is like, evolution is cool. It's a robust theory.
Mhm.
Creationism, we're working on it. Here's what we have. Here's what I think the issues are. Here's why I think we're better. And it's like, it's at least measured.
Yeah.
And that's why
he's not doing the evolution is on its last leg like it has been for the past 60 years. It's like, yeah, okay.
He actually specifically wrote a thing a few years ago that got everyone mad at him because he wrote a thing specifically saying evolution is not a theory in crisis.
It's really not.
Like, and so that got a lot of the young Earth community very mad at him.
He also got a lot of the young Earth community mad at him when he put several Australopithecines in the human quote-unquote kind. He got some of them mad at him when he wouldn't say for certain that whales were not a single kind, and that Noah basically took on some Pakicetus and then onto the ark, and then all the whales evolved from Pakicetus, because it's like, well, that's a whole lot of evolution.
A lot of evolution.
Now, to be fair, he didn't say that that's his position. He just said he couldn't currently reject that position.
Could be the case.
Right. His position is actually, I believe that there are, I think, 4 or 5 different kinds of whale that he has a quote-unquote identified. Actually, I looked into it for a script recently. Yeah, so he says that basically he thinks there are 4 or 5, but he cannot rule out the possibility that they're all actually related by common descent to an actual, like, protoceted, like, Pakicetus, which is, I mean, at that point, the idea that humans aren't related by common descent to apes becomes a whole lot of special pleading, but hey, what do I know? I mean, it was already special pleading when you combined all of the cats, because humans are way closer to chimpanzees than tigers are to lions. So, you know. All right, now, Jordan, who is your pick for best overall creationist?
My pick is going to be our friend McQueen again, because he just seems like a genuinely just nice guy. He reminds me a lot of like that grandpa that you have, and you see him at Thanksgiving, and he's like, you know, you're talking about stuff. He's like, well, the Earth is flat. You're like, oh, okay, Grandpa. You know, like
Your grandpa,
like,
have some pudding.
right? Like he just seems like a super nice guy. I've talked to him a few times. I've never heard him say a cross or mean word about anybody. He has those cool props.
He's always got a prop, man.
He sent me. Is this the one? He sent me this book.
Oh, that's
which is
nice
super
of him.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. He's just a really cool guy, and he occasionally will admit, like, well, I don't know. I'll need to look into something, and I always respect when someone can admit they don't know something.
Yep. It's
yeah,
way better than just making something up on the fly.
Exactly. So while his arguments are like D tier, him as a person S tier.
Okay. I will say, there has been some talk in the chat about whether or not Sal is in here. I actually didn't get a nomination for Sal, but I do think that putting him at the top of our creationist tier list in the past year probably covers our opinion on him. We are all generally fans of Sal as a human being. I think that's reasonable.
Sal was I went back and forth between Sal and McQueen for my pick.
Actually, I want to give Sal an honorable mention for being one of the only Christians to actually come to Kent Hovind's abuse victim side when he heard about that situation. And it's actually one of the things that she complained to me about in one of our conversations, was that, like, very little of the Christian community is in any way open to supporting her. And it's been bugging her. But Sal, sorry, a little cough, is one of the only people who's, like, part of the Christian community who is openly supporting her and saying that, like, guys, you can't support Kent Hovind on this one. Like, I know that you think of him as someone who's, you know, made good arguments or whatnot. Sal also doesn't think that he does make good arguments. So, like, yeah, you know what? That's a good move. And I think that even though he hasn't been nominated, I want to point that out there, that I appreciate that as a friend of Cindy Lincoln, that he is willing to do that. Because, yeah, it's been rough for her to not have support from her co-religionists because, you know, that's her community. That's who she thinks of as her group. And yet, very few of them have been willing to give her the time of day. So,
and I'll say, to piggyback off of that, while you'd think supporting an abuse victim would just be what you do, if everyone in your kind of in-group is doing thing A, it's especially hard to do thing B, even if thing B is the right thing to do.
Right.
So,
which again, props to Sal. So I think that sure, Sal isn't on the list, but I think we all in the chat and on the panel agree that Sal would be a great contestant. But you know what? He already got the S tier in the tier list. So maybe next year, if he continues to be a stand-up guy, we can have him nominated for that. Because, you know, we gotta change it up sometimes. I am actually probably gonna make a rule for next year, because I want to do one next year, that if you won this year, you can't even be nominated.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What? You mean
Only
we're
if
gonna
you
have to
won.
pick someone that commits fewer crimes against the English language?
or just
can't just
fewer
possibly.
actual crimes.
Well, yeah.
Or just fewer actual crimes? We can't just rename the English Language Award the Raw Matt Crimes Against English Award. Like,
we can
we're gonna have
name
to
it
pick
that,
someone
but that
else.
doesn't mean that he's going to have to win it, right? Like, it's not like Vince
That's fair.
Lombardi wins the Lombardi Trophy every year.
Well, that would be impressive.
It would be
This-
very
this-
impressive.
Each category is like sponsored by the previous.
There you go. Okay. Well, now we're
Right.
thinking way far ahead, because that's a year out. So, you know, who knows? In a year, maybe the entire country will be flooded in a sea of viruses. Who knows?
Isn't that what's happening? Right.
No, it's not a literal
year.
sea. It's
What's
only
happening this year?
figurative. It's a figurative
Oh.
sea right now.
That seems kind of far fetched there, Dapper. Like,
Well, I
don't
mean, if
know.
you have a large enough number of viruses, they could act like a particulate mass, right?
Be a fluid.
Yeah, they'd be like like sand. You know, it can flow, but it's still kind of solid. Yeah.
Be a lot of viruses. Be a
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of. I wonder how many.
A
lot.
I mean, we could figure
Someone
out
could-
like the actual like air or
We could do
volume
the, we
of
could
a
do the math.
virus.
We could do the math on
Yeah.
that.
They probably stack hexagonally because I think most of them are basically round.
They're mostly icosahedral, yeah.
Yeah, so they probably stack like spheres. So you can actually
I
there's
don't,
like
want to say, I don't want to say mostly, but a lot of them, let's say.
well, I think a reasonable approximation would be they would stack like spheres do. And you can, I mean, there are formulae for how tightly packed you can make spheres, and then we can figure out, you know, the volume that we need to cover.
Yeah.
We could do the math.
We just
um,
assume perfectly round viruses in a vacuum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay. That's fair.
I mean,
That's
look, I think it was Logic who did the math on whether or not one drop of water could cover the Earth, and he actually found out that it would take like several tens of thousands of gallons to give a monolayer of water across the entire Earth. And so, like, Kent Hovind is very, very wrong when he says one drop of water will cover the Earth if you spread it thin enough, because, you know, water molecules have a finite size. They aren't infinitely spreadable because of atomic theory. You know, that thing you might have heard of? Yeah, Kent is apparently not up to date on atomic theory.
That's just a theory.
That's true. It
okay?
is just a theory.
just a theory.
Okay, so, Jordan, who do you have for best overall creation? Oh, we already went for McQueen for you, right? Yeah, okay. So we're back to Dan. Sorry about that.
All right, so for my amateur class, as we were saying, I was like, Sal, but I figured Sal got we did the tier list, right?
Mhm.
So like, I'm gonna put that aside, kind of like what you were just saying, Dapper, about like, well, if you win, then like, you know, take a year off. So my criteria for this, for the amateur class, because is a little tricky, because among like amateur, you know, creationists, people who write and videos about this and stuff, there's you know, YouTube, Reddit, like it's tricky. There's a lot of people in that universe don't know a whole lot about evolution. And what they have learned about evolution, they have gotten from creationists. So it's hard to find like just a baseline level of just starting with accurate facts and going from there.
I want to make a quick correction, though. Temporal 2E has pointed out that it was Thunderfoot who did the calculation for the volume of water atoms and whatnot. So, sorry, Thunderfoot. I hadn't seen that in such a long time that, like, yeah, a lot of the various counter Kent Hovind videos have kind of blended together in my brain. So, keep going.
So
sorry, Dan.
good. So my criteria for this, for the amateur class of best creationist, is basically like, don't be a jerk to anybody.
Mhm.
Like, just let's start at not like assuming, or at least saying out loud, either in writing or on video, that like the people you're disagreeing with have evil motives and are trying to like turn the world into some like atheist, socialist, whatever, right? Like, let's just like start there with like not articulating those things and not like picking internet fights with people for whatever reason, right?
Not
Let's just,
saying
like,
you could
start-
break you in half. I could break you in half,
Right.
Dan.
Like, let's just start, like, you agree, disagree, good arguments, bad arguments. Let's start at the basic level of, like, not being a jerk, either on video or in writing.
High
Right?
bar in some
I think
cases.
it's a good place to start. And so, with those criteria, the name that I came up with in the amateur creationist sphere is Jonathan Guzman, who, as far as I can tell, isn't a jerk to anyone. As maybe I've missed stuff. I don't know. Jonathan, I hope not.
He's had a few questionable moments a few years ago, but I think he's been keeping his nose clean for the past couple of years or so.
You know, people are young. You grow up. You change. I'm talking. I mean, these are the 2020 awards, so we're talking.
Well, these 2021
or 2021. What year is it? I don't even know what year it is.
It's
I don't know.
2022,
They're
but
all
it's basically just 2020 Part 3.
So it's the 2021 award, right? We're dealing with 2021, and I feel like he was. I follow all his stuff. I see his stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like none of it was like bomb throwing culture war stuff. It was not calling out other people and calling them stupid and heathens and whatever. So that's why he's my nominee for this category in the amateur class of just like generally not doing the bad internet behaviors that you so often see.
Right. All right. Well, that actually concludes all of our nominations. So, basically, what I want everyone to do now is go and vote for whomever you think should win in these categories. So we have 4 categories, and they're all spaced out in the description, and there's a link. And so you just go to the link, click like on the video, and there you go. You have cast a vote. Like I said, you can vote as many times as you want. If you want to go ahead and set up like 12,000 YouTube accounts just so you can flood, I don't know, raw mat for worst use of the English language, go for it. I mean, he did put hyperlinks in a print text. So, which actually, I want to go through why that is even a thing. They literally took Google Docs documents that had clickable hyperlinks, which is fine, and they just turned them into the pages of the book. So what you're looking at are just screenshots of Google Docs, basically. It's completely insane that you would think that that is an appropriate way to write a book, but apparently we are dealing with some of the laziest possible human beings. So, also I want to add in we got a super chat from Vandalia 1998 for $5. Hey, to leave my show on Monotremes is about to start. We're actually about to close it up pretty soon. I want to put in an honorable mention for Worst Behaved for Faithful, Honest, and True, who more than a year ago, so this doesn't count, but more than a year ago, threatened to kill me while being homophobic for some reason. And then just recently, like last month, popped into my live chat to try and gaslight me about that whole experience. Unfortunately for him, I saved the video, so that doesn't really work. But yeah, he was like, I don't even make videos. I'm like, okay, sure, buddy. So yeah, just for the attempt to gaslight about a death threat, it's just like, dude, come on. The death threat is enough on its own. You don't have to add attempted gaslighting onto it. Anyway, I have no idea why he thought that would be appropriate, even if he did think that the death threat was appropriate. But does anyone have any final parting words or anything that they want to plug or anything like that?
Quick scheduling thing for me. I've got a new recording situation now, so I'll be doing more stuff. I hope in the near future. Next week I actually have a lit review plan for next week. We're gonna go over the last year's waiting time problem paper by Gunther Beckley was an author, and Anne Gouger was an author, and I forget the other authors, but it was on the waiting time problem. And we're going to go through why it's wrong. It's really obvious why it's wrong. I could explain it in like 30 seconds, but I'll leave you hanging. So we'll do that next week. It's
nice.
That's the next thing I have. Some point next week, I'm going to do a lit review on this creationist paper. It'll be fun.
Well, I just released my first video with like my face in it. So that was cool. Big upgrade,
Nice.
depending or downgrade, depending on your opinions on my face, I guess.
Let him know, guys. Let Jordan know.
Definitely. Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. So I got that coming up. I've got going to be chatting with a few creationists. One guy who runs the Reality Insights channel, he's also an engineer, so we're going to talk about the design constraints of God. He actually has a very interesting position that he thinks God is constrained by some level of physical laws, which I hadn't heard before. So we're going to hash that out end of the month, I think.
Interesting position.
Yeah, it was really interesting, which is why I wanted to have him on so we can hash. I'd never heard that exact kind of confluence of ideas. Yeah, so you can check all that out on my channel.
Okay. Well, the only thing I've only got a few things. Let's see. So, Monday, I'm going to be on the Non Sequitur Show. We're going to be talking about nuclear quote-unquote disasters, because I don't know if you know, but most of the disasters that have happened in nuclear power plants have actually not been all that disastrous when you compare them to, say, I don't know, coal disasters. So, but we are going to be talking about one of the darker ones, which was the SL-1 disaster, which was a U.S. Army operated nuclear reactor in which someone was impaled.
Yeah, that was, I was gonna say, that was the one in Idaho, right?
Yeah, it's like none of them are fun, but like, oof. Yeah, there's a reason that the only branch of the military that's currently allowed to operate reactors is the United States Navy.
And they don't manually move their control rods.
No, they have motors that do that remotely.
Do that.
Yeah,
that one was pretty rough.
Yeah, no one's going to go in there and physically lift up any of those rods. So then let's see. Tuesday should be Matt with Maddie. So if you like Science Side Up and you like my channel, we're going to continue listening to a Matt Powell sermon about the religion of atheism, in which he speaks very little about atheism, a whole lot about evolution, and never really makes the argument that either one of them is a religion. Because of course, like, what would anyone else expect? Thursday, not sure what video is coming out Thursday. It might end up being a supercut of the my take on Cindy Lincoln's tour of the day 6 or whatever Dinosaur Adventureland Science Center room. I hate calling it a Science Center, but I don't know. I don't know what else to call it. The Anti-Science Center, does that work? Okay. Anyway, and then Saturday should be more of reading Kent Hovind's dissertation, because I hate myself, and I'm gonna finish that damn thing because it's insane. It's barely a step above Raw Matt's writing. It really is. It reads. It is because okay. So I think every sentence so far has actually had a subject and a predicate. And when necessary, there's actually been a second argument or even a third argument for object or indirect object. And it's properly punctuated for the most part. It's not properly spelled in every instance, but it's mostly properly spelled. Although it does have my favorite citation of all time, which is, in parentheses, all caps, KJV : get book title as a citation. Which is just amazing. Just chef's kiss. Mwah. Perfect citation right there. KJV : get book title. It's actually so funny that I actually named one of the recent episodes of reading this. I renamed it to KJV book title, Kent Hovind's dissertation, part I think 4 or something, or maybe 3. Anyway, so yeah, if you are hoping to see the actual award show where we give out the award, that should be, I believe, on the 19th. But I mean, don't exactly get that as a tattoo yet, right? It's not set in stone right now. So, yeah, I hope to see.
Don't get it as a tattoo anyway. That's weird.
It is. Well,
you could just put it on a calendar.
Look, if
you
you
don't
want
have to get it as a tattoo.
I'm just gonna say this: if you want a Dapper Dino tattoo, you can contact me, and I can send you reference material for your tattoo artist, as long as I get to see the tattoo when it's done. That's the deal. If you want some Dapper Dino reference material, let me know for a tattoo. I'll send it right along. I'll alpha mask it, all of that great stuff. Anyway,
it's just gonna be a picture of a hyperlink that says source.
Yes,
that's all it's gonna be.
I will screenshot the word source in blue underlined. It'll be amazing. Anyway, thank you guys, everyone who came for this. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun. Remember, links are in the description for the videos. Go vote. And also, yeah, they're going to play ads because you know what? This whole thing is nonsense, but I'm putting ads on the nonsense because whatever, man. None of this matters. So I'll talk to all of you later. Bye, everybody.